All right, here we are. Each of us in our different places, yet all together. Isn't that amazing? Hayom Yom, the 5th of Sivan. So it says in the Chumash, it says, Kidashtem is Yom, make them holy today, and on tomorrow they shall cleanse their garments. So the Kohen does something, makes them holy, he's Makadesh them, and then the Yidden, and then the workers, the worker bees down below, they cleanse their garments. So he says the sanctification comes from above, Kadesh, HaKadosh, right? HaKadosh, Baruch Hu, HaKadosh comes down. But they shall cleanse their garments, meaning one must do himself. This was the entire teaching. Well, this is kind of the entire teaching of everything, right? Hashem comes down and gives us things which we're going to talk about and we've talked about, and gives us, these are tools that we use in order to come up to him. Yep, what goes down must come up, what comes up must come down. Torah and Avodah. So the Tzemach Tzedek elaborated, sanctify them was said by God to Moshe, right? The extension of Moshe, this is coming down, the extension of Moshe, this is Pashtusa the Moshe Rabbeinu, the one who, the flowing out of the energetic of Moshe Rabbeinu exists in every generation. These are the tzaddikim. And they are able to sanctify the today and the tomorrow. That's very nice, because that's back to the word. Sanctify them today and tomorrow. They can sanctify the now and the future. But for this, it's needed, in order for that to happen, in order for the future to become now, they, us, the below part, they shall close their garments, the garments of thought, speech, and deed. This must be done by each person on his own. This expression, Kadesh Atzmecha b'mutalach. It says that you should sanctify yourself in what's permissible to you. It's the Chazal, or its teaching is that you sanctify yourself a little down here below, you get sanctified a lot, you arouse God's Kedusha very much from above. So this is everywhere, right? The flow, below to above to below. And it will be also, as we start this lessons in Tanya, we're starting the new section. We're starting Shar Yichud V'Emunah. But before Shar Yichud V'Emunah, there's an introduction, which is called Chinuch Katan, a small piece on education, or as I freely translate, a way of guiding a small person. Chinuch is also to guide, how to guide a young one. So this is here, and this is, right, it's the beginning. This is page, well, in Lessons in Tanya, it's a continuation and numeration of pages. So it's called page 816, but it's the beginning of Lessons in Tanya. Okay, so we'll begin. Hanu Likuti Amorim Chelik Sheni. This is the second part of Chelik Sheni. Now, this Chanuch Lanar is an introduction to the second part of Likutei Amorim. The second part is just a couple of days away, which is Shar Yichud V'Emunah, the gate of unity and faith. And this is an introduction. It's called B'Shem Chinuch Katan. It's called Chinuch Katan, educating the child, or a small piece on Chinuch. It's Maluka, it's collected, and this is a language he uses from the beginning of the Tanya, right? Maluka mipis forim and pis seifrim, connected from the mouths, literally, of books. This is the traditional, the sforim that have been written. Lessons in Tanya says mainly from the Maharal and the Shalom. And mipis seifrim, these are the Alter Rebbe's teachers, going back, of course, all the way to the beginning of the Kabbalah, but particularly he was a student of the Baal Shem and the Mezritch Magid, who he calls Kedushi Elyon, the holy, supernal holy ones. Nishmatsam Eidid, their souls are in Gan Eden. And it's Miyusud, this piece, which the piece being Shar Yichud V'Emunah, by the way, is founded On the Parsha Rishonim shall Krisma, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokecha, Hashem Echad, and the second Baruch Shem Kaved Malchus Le'elam Bo'em. So this is, well, no accident. This is today Yesod Sheba Malchus. And this is Malchus, one of the meanings of Yesod is fundament or foundation. And one of the readings of Malchus is development. You know, we've talked about the Malchus as the womb. So this is a foundational piece in developing a human being, particularly a Jewish human being. Foundational piece in, it's the Yesod of development. And that's kind of what it is. Okay, Chanoich Lenar al pi darkoi, Pasuk in Mishlei. You should educate the child according to his ways. Gam ki yazkin, and if you do that, even as the child gets old, he won't turn from it. Now, this poses a question. In a Ksiv al pi darkoi, since it says educate the child according to his ways, so it's his ways. It's not God's ways. The word says his ways. So that seems to imply, if it's his ways, she'enu derech emes, that it's not the way of truth. So what sense, emes lamita, it's not the true of truth. So what sense does it make? Bimkein, if this is what it's talking about, if it's his ways, not God's ways, my maliuta, what's the advantage of it? Shigam ki yazkin lisod mimenu, we say that if it's not his ways and these ways are going to go right through into his old age, what's the point? What's the advantage? And yet we say there's a mila. So his ways cannot be understood the way we understand his ways, just the natural ways of a child. There's a deeper nature that we've explored and talked about to everybody than the ways that appear to the so-called natural ways. There's a deeper, and that's what we're going to talk. His ways, the deep ways of what's really embedded in the child, what's really embedded in every human being. It's known that the roots of the service of Hashem, Yesudosai, and its foundational, and the Chila B'Rechima, as we've spoken about in Tanya. The roots, he says, the first root of service of Hashem is fear. The fear of being disconnected. That's how I've always been teaching it as we've been learning it. And then Rechima, to get connected, to come close through the midah of love. And he says, the fear of being disconnected means I'm not going to do what I shouldn't do. That's Misur Merah. The Ava, and the root of love, is V'asei I'm going to do what my beloved wants me to do. The Kiyim Kol Mitzvahs Asi D'Oraisa B'Rabbanan, and it's the fulfillment. How do you do this? This is the fulfillment, the mitzvah, positive mitzvahs, negative mitzvahs, the entire mitzvahs Asei D'Oraisa and the Rabbanan. These are the other side of Chesed. Kameshis Borba Makoimim, as is explained in their place, which is in the earlier parts of Tanya. Mitzvahs Chinik, he gamkein, you should know, just parenthetically, it's in parentheses, that the mitzvah, there's a mitzvah itself. One of the 613 is to guide or educate your child. In the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Shim Gimel. About love, it's written. It says, it says about love. I am commanding you to do it. So the question is raised, explained, and raised and explained. It is, how can you command someone to love? So we're getting a hint, right? This is obviously, there must be something intrinsic in a person which can be triggered, rather than, you can't just command somebody externally. There has to be a relationship there. So there has to be some relationship. If Hashem says, I want you to love me. To love Hashem. You don't, how can someone do love? You say, love me, just do it. As you could say about an assignment you give somebody, right? Just do it. But just love me? No, there has to be, and this is where we're going, there has to be something deep in the soul, the heart and soul of a human, of a Jew, that resonates with Hashem as a result of his or her nature, right? That's part of the Tuba'u, that's sunk into the nature of a person. So, in Avis Shabalev, how do you command someone to do this love of the heart? I want you, I'm commanding you to make your heart love me. Athenian is this, so that's the question. So let's explain that. The Eshnei mini Avos Hashem. There are two kinds of love of Hashem. Achas, one, he klois hanefesh, b'tevoah. This is the expiration of the soul that a person has b'tevoah. And here's the word nature. Sunk into the nature of every Jew is a nature to want to expire upward, yearn and cling to Hashem. El Boder, to his creator. This is when the nefesh hasichlis, the intellectual soul, strengthens itself, ala chaimer, meaning overcomes the superficiality of the quote nature, of the coarseness of nature, and lowers that, pushes down the crassness of physicality, and subjugates oneself, or let's use that, subjugates that, pushes it, smooths it out, thins it out. We've used these words before. Excuse me. Underneath it, the nefesh hasichlis sort of gets on top of the crassness of this world, thins it out, pushes it aside, and reveals the underlying teva, the never, which is above nature, the teva, the nature of nature, which is above nature, which is the godliness embedded in everything. So and then the soul naturally flames up on its own. And it's happy and rejoices in Hashem, and Hashem who makes him, who makes the person, who makes the soul. And the person and the soul is joyous with a wondrous joy. Period. And those who merit, to this great love, remember from Tanya, Avaraba is a darga. There's Avos Olam, and this Avaraba. I mean, we won't go into it now, but we learned this before. This is the highest level of love, Avaraba. So those who merit this are called Nikroim Tzadikim, or are called Tzadikim. Because is written Simchu Tzadikim by Hashem. It's a pasuk that the ones who really have the highest level of joy are Tzadikim. Of course, we've talked about this and we recapitulate it many times. Kulam Tzadikim. There's a pintle of tzaddik in every person. And someone, I don't remember who, put this really in detailed drosh of the letter tzaddik in our daily Tanya. So it's there for the taking if you haven't taken it yet. Okay, but this is the merit of the level of tzaddik, this level of avarab. So not everybody merits this. You have to really work on it. You have to purify the coarseness of the superficiality of the reality that is front and center in front of our eyes. Very, very much. And you have to have a lot of Torah Ma'asim Tevim in order to clean the Neshama Elyoina. And we have levels of the soul: Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chai, Yechida. Right. So starting bottom up, foundation again back to Yesod. Maisa, who the ikar, the root is Maisa, and we have to work on the Maisa to purify upward the higher levels of our souls, to bring that sense. It should be said, I guess, that the neshama doesn't need a fixing. So what are we talking about here? To bring the nature of the soul to revelation, to feel it, to experience the neshama, the chai yechida. This takes the zichuch. It takes a lot of work. So that's important to know. The neshama doesn't need purification. The neshama is a chelik elokam emal, but for that fact that it is a chelik elokam emal to be resonant and revealed in everybody, that in yourself, that takes work. It's written in the Sefer Reishis Chochmah. That's one thing. So that's Avarabba. the function of, quote, tzaddikim. Now we have the second level. The sheni is a'ava shekol adam yochel hagia aleha, and this is the level that everybody can reach. Kishi is bainin, when a person contemplates, hatev well, be'umka deliba, in the depths of one's heart, but the borim hamaorim esa'am, those things which arouse the love, la Hashem, belev kol Yisrael, in the heart of every person. And there he gives two ways of doing this: a general way and a very specific way. That is the way of doing what? To contemplate in such a way that it brings forth an arousal of love to Hashem. One, the derek klal, the general way, kihu hayim mamish. Simply to realize, think, he is my life. In other words, I'll say one little thing about this which works for me. When I contemplate kihi hayim, it's not that he is my life, it's that he is invested in me, otherwise I don't have any life. That's the simple. Kihu chayenu mamish. And just as a person loves his own soul, his own life, wants to be alive, so one will love Hashem. When a person will contemplate, and put upon one's heart, that Hashem is your true soul, and your true life. It's a pasuk in Yeshua that says, my soul desires you, because my soul is part of you. And the negativity of separation, we don't need to talk about, but the positivity of being a vehicle for bringing awareness bringing awareness and a sense of the love of Hashem is through this simple meditation. The Hein Derek Prat, and now he gives a more detailed kind of meditation. When a person will use the faculty of bina and one's intellect to comprehend, to engage in seichel, engage one's seichel, in the Gudulasa Shel Melech Malchei Baruch Hu, about the greatness of Hashem, who is King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He, Derek Pratius, in a specific way. Is each one according to the specificity that one is able to formulate in one's mind. And also according to that which is above seichel. I mentioned to Pirush that there are many Pirushim, but one that stays in my mind that I always give it over about what's an example of a meditation, bina, right, as bindiness, that's above intellect. So the Rebbe Rashab, this is the Rebbe Rashab definition of the expression lahavin, to understand something within something else. Lahavin dava mitoich dava, to understand one thing from another. What is that's expression? What does it mean? To understand with your bina that there are things beyond understanding. And I've used before the example of beauty. Beauty is not something you can intellectually formulate why it is that I feel that it feels beautiful. A get, you realize just as a get, it's plain and simple. There are many things that are real but beyond understanding. And beauty is just an example in the physical world. Ultimately, it's the experience and the feeling of Elokus, which is totally beyond understanding. Yet, just a sort of my own little thought about introduction, this is an introduction. If one is able to cultivate a sense of the yichud, the singularity, and the unity of God in everything, and cultivate emuna, which emuna, as I mentioned before, is derived from the Lashon umen, which is craft that emuna, then one will be able to live with a bina, which is beyond bina, an understanding that there are things beyond understanding at its deepest level, which is Hashem. And then afterwards, after this havana, this understanding, a person will meditate, contemplate in the love of Hashem, hagedula v'nefloah, the wondrous of Hashem's greatness and His wondrousness alenu. His wondrousness is beyond understanding. Nasa v'nishma. We do because there's something in us that relates intrinsically to capturing and involving ourselves in that which is beyond understanding. But after we do that, nasa, then we begin to nishma and really, bring down into rationality and bring down into thought, speech, and deed. The wondrousness of Hashem, bring it that what did he do? Look at this wondrous thing that he did. He went down to Mitzrayim, Eretz Ha'oretz, the naked, it's called the naked place of the world. Leitzia nashmaseinu, to take our souls out, Mekur HaBazel, from the iron furnace, Shehu Asiter Achra, which is the other side, Rahman al-Islam, the merciful one should save us from that. And he brought us close, I love to him. And he brought us to cling to him. The Shmoi Mamish, in his name, the Yud Kei Vav Kei Mamish. And his name, this is all, by the way, introductory to Shar Yichud Ramuna. We're going to explain this about name, different names, and where different levels in which they reflect levels, so to speak, in Hashem. But ultimately, Hu v'Shmei Echad, he and his name are one, and we'll explain that as we get into Shar Yichud Ramuna. He and his name are one. So contemplate this. The Hainu Sheremamonu B'Taklis Hashiflus. What did God do for us? Think about this. He took us from the ultimate in loweredness, downtroddenness, from Hatuma and impurity, Letaklis Kedusha, to the ultimate state of holiness, and unified us with his greatness. Which is greatness, his greatness has no limits, no boundaries. So when a person contemplates this is, by the way, if you remember, a recapitulation of the particular piece in Tanya where he explicated the mushal of the face you showed that you shown to the water, the face you get back. And there, God showed his face to us down here below. He showed us. He Ani v'lei soraf, right, in the Haggadah. I am not an angel. He revealed himself to us at Yetzias Mitzrayim. He came down into the dregs of the lowest place on earth and scooped us out. So when a person contemplates that, then we automatically, it will be, because the face he shows to the water is the face that gets back, we so-called automatically, that should create a response in us to love Hashem. Upon him, like the face that's shown to the water, is tis oira ava balev. Just as he showed his face to us with love, that should arouse our face to him with love. Balev kol maskil, in the heart of anyone who has any degree of understanding. And a person meditates and can meditate in this, and here we go again, meditate with the depths of your heart. Bina, remember the Zohar? Bina liba. Bina, left side of the brain, is the heart. Bina liba. Ubo halev mevin. And the heart comes to a heartfelt understanding, much deeper way of thinking about understanding than seichel. Yaskil is boinen be'inyan zeh be'umka deliver, in the depths of the heart, la'oyeves Hashem, to love Hashem, ava ozer, with a strong love, uladavka boy, and to cling to him, belev v'nefesh, with a heart and soul, kameshi is bora, b'makoymai be'arichas, as will be explained at length in Arichas. Now here there's a note which is actually brought in lessons on Tanya. He's already explained this. We've learned this. This is a recapitulation for us, but he says he will explain it. And there's a note in lessons in Tanya that it seems that there is because of the fact that he says, I will explain it, that really Shar Yichud V'Amuna was intended, this is hard for me to understand, maybe some, intended to be the first part of Tanya. First, I'm going to teach you about God and God's unity, and then I'm going to teach you all the techniques and tools that we talked about in Likutei Amora. So that's a little note on why he says, I will explain this, because he already has explained this. But anyway, we will explain it because we haven't touched our Yichud V'Amuna yet, but we will in 2 days. Okay, I see a hand up. Aviva.
Why do you think that during the revelation in Mitzrayim, the Jews did not have Kos HaNefesh, but by Har Sinai, they did. Like, what was the difference in the revelation?
I'm thinking. Anybody else want to offer a thought on that while I'm thinking? The only thing I can think, and I'm not saying this authoritatively, is because of the fact that we were sunken in Memtesh Shari Tuma, 29 gates of Tuma, right? And one more, we would have just been lost. So I don't think we had and I think this is right, because it's consistent with what the whole avoida of Sfiras HaOmer. We didn't have the kelim to appreciate what was going on here. It was a stunning event, and we were, number one, struck with the fear and awe and dread of what is this, and we were running, and we weren't fit for it. And why I think that might be the right answer is because we've also learned in Chassidus that the 49 days of Sfiras HaOmer are all to purify each and every midah so that we can be a fit keli to makabel the Torah the way we did on Har Sinai, because of the fact that we've really cleansed ourselves.
I concur, Doctor.
What?
I concur, Doctor.
Okay.
I'll say that. Okay, good.
I think that's good. Anybody else? Anybody out there? Is there anybody out there? Yeah. So what's our bechein for today? Kinderlach, you and me. What are we going to do with this? Well, I'm going to leave you with it. I'm not going to volunteer today. Remember, this is Yesod Sheba Malchus. What we've just learned is the foundation of development. That's a pair that I put together, in my own today. The foundation of development is this, that we have this within us, and it needs just to be chanoich. It needs to be guided. And at least let's remember, we've answered the question. Chanuch lenar al pi darkoi doesn't mean educate the child the way. I'm inclined to be a baseball player. Just give me everything I need to be a baseball player. Well, it does in a certain way. I'm inclined to be, because I have a nature of a godly nature, guide me, lift me up, show me the way to fan the flame that's buried within me. That's the education of the child that will last him until his old and through his old age. Okay, Rivka, good.
Hi, good morning. I missed out on a little part, but when you say Hinachonar al pi darko, I mean, it also means everybody's individualistic approach and everybody's unique way of doing, again, by connecting with your nature.
Right. It's just, we've got to be careful with that. It means everyone's individualistic approach to connecting with Hashem.
Yeah.
And not everyone's individualistic approach to be whatever they want to be. Right.
Approach to avodat Hashem. Yes.
The approach to avodas Hashem. Exactly.
And to value again, I like to bring it back to Avis Yisrael, to value everybody's unique qualities and contributing to the whole.
Beautiful.
So that's definitely Matan Torah.
Excellent. B'leiv echad, right?
Right.
Ish echad b'leiv echad. Matan Torah. Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else? I'd love to hear from more people. We have such interesting people on this thing. All right. See you tomorrow, Mr. Shem. God willing. Bye-bye.
Amen.